You have been stuck behind 100 times. That big truck with the fat barrel on the back, slowly turning around and around and around. At a red light, in traffic, parked at a site, even sitting empty. That drum is always spinning, and you probably figured it was just how the machine works. It mixes the concrete. Of course, it's spinning. Here is the thing. That drum isn't spinning because it's mixing. It's spinning because it's running from something. The moment that truck was loaded, a chemical reaction started inside it that cannot be paused, cannot be reversed, and cannot be stopped by anything on Earth. It's called hydration. And from that second on, the driver is in a race. If that drum stops turning for too long, the driver doesn't have a truck with a load of concrete in it anymore. He has a truck with a solid boulder permanently welded inside it, sometimes weighing as much as a car, that has to be broken out with jackhammers or scrapped entirely. By the end of this, you'll understand the invisible clock ticking inside every single one of these trucks, why the industry has a hard rule measured in minutes, and why that drum is spinning in a completely different way on the way to the site than it does when it arrives. So, let's get into it. What's actually happening inside that drum? Why can't the driver just stop it at a red light? What is the 90-minute rule, and what happens the second it runs out? Why does the drum sometimes spin one way and sometimes the other? And what does a driver actually do when he's stuck in traffic, watching that clock tick down? Here's what everyone gets wrong. We assume concrete dries the way paint or mud dries, by having its water evaporate away. That's completely wrong, and the truth is far stranger. Concrete doesn't dry at all. It hardens because of a chemical reaction between the cement and the water, called hydration. The water isn't leaving. It's being consumed, chemically locked into brand new crystals that grow, reach out and knit themselves together into stone, which is why concrete can happily harden underwater. And here's the critical part. That reaction starts the instant the water touches the cement back at the plant, before the truck has even pulled out of the yard. From that moment, the concrete is already becoming rock. The reaction cannot be paused, and it cannot be undone. So the truck isn't a mixer. It's a countdown, and it's driving as fast as it legally can toward the only place that load can still be saved. So what is the drum actually doing? Those crystals we mentioned are constantly reaching out to grab each other and lock together into a solid mass. The spinning drum simply keeps tearing them apart. Every rotation lifts and folds and tumbles the entire load, breaking apart any bonds trying to form and keeping the concrete in a loose, fluid, pourable state. The reaction still marches on regardless, it always does, but the mix stays workable a while longer. It's a bit like constantly stirring a pot to stop a skin forming on top, except the skin is stone and it's trying to form everywhere at once. And the drum is smarter than it looks. Inside are big spiral blades welded to the wall, in a shape not unlike a screw or a corkscrew. Spin the drum one direction, and those blades continuously push the concrete deeper into the drum while folding and mixing it. Reverse the direction, and the exact same spiral acts like a screw conveyor, marching the load right back out of the opening and down the chute. That's the entire trick. One drum, one set of blades, and the whole thing switches from mixing to pouring based on nothing but which way it turns. You have absolutely seen this without ever noticing. Driving down the road, the drum turns slowly, just fast enough to keep everything alive. Then at the site, it spins up faster in the same direction to fully mix the batch, before finally reversing to pour. So, how long does the driver actually have before the race is lost? The industry answer is brutally specific. Under a standard called ASTM C94, ready-mixed concrete generally must be discharged within 90 minutes of the water first hitting the cement, or within about 300 revolutions of the drum, whichever comes first. 90 minutes, that's the whole clock, and it covers everything: loading, driving across town, waiting in traffic, and pouring. And here's a detail that shows just how tight the tolerance is. Concrete companies literally count the revolutions of the drum, because too much mixing is its own problem, generating frictional heat that actually speeds up the reaction and wears out the mix. The clock isn't a suggestion, it's chemistry, and it runs faster in the heat. A hot summer day can slash that window dramatically, while cold weather stretches it out. Modern trucks even display the hydraulic pressure on the drum right on the dash, and as the load stiffens, that pressure climbs. There's a rule of thumb. If the pressure rises much above where it was when the truck left the plant, the driver has minutes, not hours. He is watching the concrete turn to stone in real time on a gauge. And if he loses the race, the results are exactly as bad as they sound. If that drum stops turning long enough, or the clock simply runs out, the load sets solid inside the truck, and you cannot unharden concrete. There is no chemical, no heat, no trick that turns it back. What you now own is a steel drum with several tons of solid rock fused to the inside of it, and it will not come out through a chute built for liquid. The fix is to send people in with jackhammers to break it out piece by piece, a brutal, dangerous, and expensive job, and if it's bad enough, the drum itself is simply scrapped. Which is why a driver stuck in traffic with a full load is watching that clock with a very particular kind of dread. And it's why one of the oldest tricks in the trade is a trim water splash, adding a little extra water to loosen the mix and buy maybe another 10 or 15 minutes. But this is a genuine devil's bargain, because too much water permanently weakens the finished concrete, and every driver knows adding water to save a load can mean pouring a weaker structure, which raises the obvious question, why does the concrete get mixed on the road at all? Because the truck exists to solve a problem that no one could solve for thousands of years. Concrete is ancient. The Romans built the Pantheon's dome out of it, and it's still standing. But for most of history, concrete had to be mixed right where it was poured, by hand, on site, in small batches. That meant hauling cement, sand, gravel, and water to every single job, mixing it right there, and living with the fact that every batch came out a little different. The whole idea of the transit mixer, a drum that mixes the concrete while it drives, is what turned concrete into an industrial product. Suddenly, a plant could measure every ingredient with real precision, guarantee an exact strength, and deliver it anywhere, in enormous volume already mixed. Modern cities, high-rises, freeways, bridges, they simply are not possible without ready mixed concrete arriving by the truckload, on schedule. And the 90-minute rule is the price of that miracle. The reason a spinning drum has to exist at all is that the industry chose to start the chemical reaction miles away from where the concrete will actually live. And once you know that, this ordinary truck starts telling you a story every time you see one. The drum turning lazily in traffic is a driver keeping his load alive, and if it's spinning fast at a site, he's making the final mix, or pouring. Look for the water tank mounted on top, and now you know it's there for a splash of trim water and for washing the truck out immediately after every single pour, because leftover concrete left inside will harden, build up, and eventually ruin the drum, exactly like a slow-motion version of the disaster. That's the same reason you'll see a driver frantically hosing out the chute the second the pour ends, and it ties into things we've covered before. That mixer is one of the heaviest trucks on the road, which is exactly why it so often carries those lift axles we talked about, dropping extra wheels to legally carry the weight, then raising them once it's empty. And here's the deeper connection. That reefer trailer with its own engine is fighting the exact same battle, an invisible chemical clock that can never be allowed to run out, whether it's food warming up or concrete turning to stone. It's the same story. A truck racing an unstoppable process to a deadline. The spinning drum is the most visible countdown timer on any road in the world, and almost nobody driving past it knows the clock is even running. But that clock creates real pressure, and not all of it lands on the machine. The 90-minute rule means a concrete delivery is one of the least forgiving jobs in trucking. Traffic doesn't care about your chemistry, and if a site isn't ready to receive, that driver is sitting there with a load that's actively turning to stone. It puts a driver in a genuinely lousy position, weighing whether to add water and weaken the pour, or bring the load back and eat the cost. And it's not just money. A hardened batch means wasted cement, and cement production is responsible for a substantial share of global carbon emissions. So a dumped load is a real environmental cost, not just a financial one. The whole system is built around a chemical reaction that will not negotiate. Concrete doesn't care about traffic or schedules or excuses. It only cares that water and cement met, and that from that moment on, it has been on its way to becoming stone. Which is why so much of the new technology is aimed squarely at the clock. Chemical admixtures called retarders can be added to slow the hydration down, stretching the window on hot days or long hauls, and other admixtures speed it back up once the concrete's in place. Some trucks now carry systems that continuously monitor the mix inside the drum in real time, tracking its consistency and temperature, and telling the driver exactly how much time is really left, instead of relying on a stopwatch and a rule of thumb. There are even systems that automatically stop the drum during hard turns, because a spinning drum full of sloshing liquid affects the truck's stability. And volumetric mixers take the opposite approach entirely. They carry the dry ingredients and the water in separate compartments and only mix them at the job site, starting the chemical clock the very moment the concrete is needed. No clock, no race. But for the vast majority of the concrete on Earth, the drum is still turning, still running from the reaction inside it. So the next time you're stuck behind one of those trucks, watching that big drum turn slowly around, you'll understand exactly what you're looking at. That's not a mixer doing its job. That's a truck running from a chemical reaction that started the moment water touched cement, tearing apart crystals as fast as they can form, racing a 90-minute clock to the only place that load can still be saved. The spinning isn't the machine working, it's the machine surviving. And the second that drum stops for too long, its cargo becomes exactly the thing it was always destined to be: solid stone, in the worst possible place. And that dump truck you see raising its bed high into the air to shed a full load of gravel, lifting all that weight straight up, should absolutely tip the whole truck over backwards. Why it doesn't, and the very specific circumstances where it actually does, is a piece of physics worth understanding.